Good morning, everyone. So it is Ben Gleason here, as you know, the Atlanta Real Estate Geek, and I am honored to have JaNeen, the lending queen, with me today. I really wanted to have this time with her and ask her some questions and her to explain some things to you all about the home buying process. This is October, it's financial planning month, and I wanted to do this to help everyone get their ducks in a row so you know what to expect in the home buying process. If you follow me on social media, you know that's my big thing. I don't like any surprises. I want everyone to know what's coming. This is most of the time the biggest investment you all are making in your life. And I wanted JaNeen to be here to answer the questions that we need to make sure you all are set up for success. So JaNeen, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Ben. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here. So let's jump right into it. So, most people when they're buying a home, they need to get a loan. That's just the reality of today's world. So, one thing that's come up and you and I have touched on before has been, let's talk about the pre-approval process, because people want to go out, they want to start looking at a home, right? That's what they want. That's the fun part. But the work that's involved is the pre-approval or the pre-qualification. So I'm going to give that to you. What do they need from your end as a lender to get that pre-qualification so they're all set when they find that home of their dreams?
Absolutely, Ben. And honestly, out of the whole loan process, this is by far the most important, because the worst thing that can happen is someone falls in love with a home and they find out they don't qualify for it.
Yes.
So with the lender that you choose, hopefully that's Guaranteed Rate Affinity, that would be me. But whatever lender that you use, you want to make sure that you have completed your application in its entirety. So if you've been on your job for 6 months, we're going to need that previous employer and have that history go back at least 2 years. If with your credit is important. But outside of credit, you've got your debt to income ratio, you've got assets, you've got reserve, verification of employment. There's a lot that goes behind a file being approved. So initially you complete your application, and then you also want to supply your loan officer with all of the real meat and potatoes that we need for a loan. You want to have your W-2s. If you're self-employed, you need your tax returns. If you're W-2 employee, we're going to need the 2 most recent pay stubs. If you are paid weekly, we need 4 pay stubs. So you want to make sure that your lender has it all so that they can see it and analyze it early on in your process. And then, of course, most important is the money, assets. Where's your money going to come from? Sometimes someone may be getting a gift. Well, the lender needs to see where that gift is coming from and verify that that gifter has sufficient funds to be able to give it. So again, I can't stress enough, your lender's like your doctor. Don't leave anything out, show your everything that's going on so we know exactly how and how much to pre-approve you for.
Okay, I got to jump in because I love how you said that with your lender's like your doctor, because I always tell my clients, I'm like, look, you know what? I work with a couple of different people and I try to match personalities, because it's like, look, you want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to the lender, the loan officer you're working with, and you want that open communication. You want them to feel comfortable. That's my biggest thing, because you are going into so much of their financial situation. I want them to feel comfortable talking to that lender. If like, hey, they have a question, pick up the phone, call the lender. It's cool. You need to make sure you understand what's going on and what's expected. So I'm thrilled you said that. So
absolutely, Ben. And then just, that final piece for your loan officer, don't be afraid to ask, have you ran my file through the automated underwriting system? Yes. No matter what lender you're using, we all use the same underwriting system. It's DU for desktop underwriting and LP for loan prospector. Once we have all of this data on you and we know that it's accurate, when we run it through that automated system, it's going to give us the approval. Well, once your file gets into underwriting, the underwriter is really just making sure that everything we said matches that approval. If that automated underwriting isn't ran, then there's still possibly a question mark out there. So don't be afraid to ask your lender. I mean, because like for me, if any question a borrower asks, I'm giving you the answer. Sometimes I tell them a little bit more than they want to know.
And I'm so thrilled you said that, because I say that to my clients all the time. I was like, I will give you more information than you ever need. And it's like, if you're done, just say stop. Like, I won't
Right.
be offended. I was like, but I will give you more than you ever wanted to know about the home buying process. And so
Right.
I love it. And this is why I think you and I connect so well. But, let's go down that. Let me take it a step further, why this is so important and doing that pre-approval. And because it's so tight right now on the buy side, there's such little inventory that having your eggs and your ducks in a row is so important, because like JaNeen said, you don't want to find that ideal home and then all of a sudden you can't get it. The other side to it is, I have listings, and the same thing. If someone comes to me and they don't have a pre-qualification or a pre-approval, and I have multiple offers, I'm going to delve deeper into the offers. Okay. I'm going to do it anyway. And one of the things I do as an agent is also, I'm going to call, if I have multiple offers, I'm calling that loan officer. I'm going to see what has actually been done. I'm like, okay, have you put them through desktop underwriting? Have you pulled a tri-merge credit? Like, I go into that sometimes if I don't know the loan officer, because I want to make sure it's like, okay, we're not going to have any issues 20 days into this. My client's looking to move, you're looking to move in, and something goofy happens, because it's the truth. It does. So
let me tell you, Ben,
avoid all of that.
You and I both know COVID has affected us in various ways, but the process of buying a home has really been flipped on its head.
Yeah.
Right. So once upon a time, you probably could go and view a house without having a pre-approval and not all of this extra that's completed before you go out. But in this market, that's not the case, which is why I also want to plug in. I love my mom. She's one of my favorite people in the world. But if you are shopping for a house and your parents are involved and they haven't bought a house in the last 2 to 3 years, I promise you, they don't understand. They don't understand.
You just segue into that so beautifully, and thank you for that, because that was one thing I did want to talk about, and you hit it on the head. One of the issues that we have is that whether it's parents, aunts or uncles, whoever it is, if you haven't bought a house in 10 years, and we're going to roll this into the next question I have for JaNeen too, is that loan programs change, the way everything operates changes. And I get it all the time when I'm out with people like, oh, well, my uncle said this, or, oh, we bought a house 10 years ago and we could do it this way. Right. But just like, everyone understands the stock market changes, there are different things. People don't really quite understand that the real estate market changes, the mortgage market changes. There are certain programs and things people could do 10, 15 years ago that you can't do now. Like, they are completely gone. It's not that people don't want to do them, but the laws changed, and certain things had to go with it. So that is a beautiful thing that you went into. Thank you for that, because you're right. If you haven't bought a home in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, it's a different beast now than it used to be. Just even the searching, the finding, and the mortgage process. So
sometimes my agents pull me in, to talk to the parents, to explain it from a lender's perspective, because they don't understand, the house is listed for 300,000. Well, we want to offer 285, not in 2021.
Exactly.
Not if you want to win. And it's, trusting your team. If you are dealing with a loan officer, and some people, it's like, oh, well, they pulled my credit, so I'm kind of stuck with them. No, you have to have a level of comfort and trust with your team, which is your agent and your loan officer. We are only here to help you. We are only here to guide you to get that home that you really want. But it's hard for us to do that when you've got outside forces that are telling you the opposite of what we're telling you. Meanwhile, you're losing, and it's so discouraging. And so I can't stress that enough, because I get, some of my agents will call me like, JaNeen, I cannot believe I have shown her the 10th house and she refuses to give a full price offer because her grandfather said you just don't do that. Different set of rules.
Completely. And to follow up with that, like, I had a client too, and we went from one extreme to the other. She was like, she didn't understand. And I tried to say it from the very beginning, because they were buying a home for their parents. She was trying to get her parents up from Florida, and a wonderful situation. I said, look, in this market, you are going above asking. That's just the way it is. And it took them putting in 4 offers, losing all of them, and me coming back and saying, this is what it sold for before they finally got it. And I was like, okay, we good? But then of course they were so tired, she went 40 grand over asking price. And I was like, okay, hold on, I don't know. It's like, we're gonna pull this, and this is how I'm gonna set it up to protect you. And
I'm winning this one. This one's
exactly,
mine.
that's what it went. It's like, so, but it's a perfect example of like how the emotions kick in, and it's like, I'm gonna get it. I'm like, right, okay, but we can protect you. We don't have to throw an extra 40 grand at it immediately. But yeah, like, let's work on this. And you hit it on the head. You're right. And I tell people right now, it's like, hey, in 2021, I'm like, hey, if you are like, we're looking at a home that's 300, 350. I'm like, great, no problem. I was like, are you willing to go 20,000 over asking price? That's my first question. And they're like, huh? I'm like, if you aren't willing emotionally to say, yes, I'm going to start at 20 grand over for certain homes in certain areas, there's no point in having this discussion. We need to go out and see, and I will show you all the homes I've sold. This is asking, this is where they've sold. And that's just the market right now. And, as we said a couple of years ago, you can go back 2 years ago. It was not that way at all. But this is the housing market now. And again, this is why it's so important to have all your ducks in a row before you go out and look at a home, because you don't want anything. There's nothing worse than seeing someone get so excited. I have it with clients too. Like when they're in the process, they want to get their approval, or something comes up. They're like, hey, we got to get this fixed, but we'll be ready in 4 weeks. So we want to look now. And I'm like, nope, because you're going to find that house and you're going to compare every other house to that house.
Yes.
It's like, so you really want everything to fall in line. And JaNeen, I think you'll agree with me. It's funny because when you find that right house, everything clicks and it goes smoothly. And if you're working with the right people and they've set you up for success, that's a term you'll hear me use all the time, it'll go through without a problem. You will have minor things that will come up that you're going to take care of and just keep going. So
that's what the loan process, that's what the home buying process is supposed to be.
It's exactly, that's what we want it to be. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you and record it for people, because it can still be had. But again, you need to have the knowledge of what the market is now and what loan officers are going through, like yourself, JaNeen, and what I'm going through with clients as well, to set you up for success. So fantastic. Okay, so let me go down to this next question here, because I think this is very important to talk about, is especially right now with the market being so tight, FHA and conventional loans. Okay, and very briefly, I know I see your face, and let's go over this if you can. Give them a quick difference between an FHA and a conventional loan, because I know when I talk to people about this, this is where their eyes glaze over, but they need to understand why this is so important right now, especially if they're doing multiple offers on a home.
Yes. So first, I have to share my frustration with the market, because I'm going to actually add to that VA as well, because somewhere along the way, people believe that FHA and VA loans weren't as good as conventional, right? It's not the case. It's all, loans are like fingerprints. They're different for everybody.
Yes.
So you could have a borrower who qualifies for a conventional, but maybe they're buying a property that's a bit outdated and they only have so much money, and they want to go in and redo the floors and redo cabinets and all this kind of stuff. So instead of them buying conventionally and putting more money down, it might make better sense for them to buy FHA, which requires a lower down payment, so that they have the money to do the things that they want for their house. Now, that is one of a million different scenarios, right? But again, just to answer your question, Ben, to define the different loans, conventional is generally for that borrower that has really good credit. And I mean, I would say generally credit scores over 700, even though conventional allows for a credit score as low as 640. But there's a piece that's really important that a lot of consumers don't understand. If you're not putting 20% down, then you have this little monster called PMI, private mortgage insurance. PMI is a risk-based product. So the higher your credit score, the cheaper your PMI. The lower your credit score, the more expensive your PMI is going to be. So I could have a borrower, again, let's say they're at a 660 credit score. I generally could go either lane. I could get them conventional, I could get them FHA, But the private mortgage insurance on the FHA loan, that is a formula. It is a fixed formula. So it doesn't matter if your interest rate, if your credit score is 600 or 800, anyone that's going FHA is paying the same formula. That borrower may save a couple $100 by going FHA versus conventional because their credit score is decent, but it's not exactly excellent, right?
Yep.
And then when it comes to VA, I'm just amazed that anyone doesn't want to take a VA loan. It's my absolute favorite loan to do. I love my veterans. Thank you for your service. It's 100% financing. There's no PMI. And I mean, here most companies, I won't even just say here, because this is not about plugging me, this is about education. Most veterans aren't even charged fees to do a loan from the lender side. So if you're a veteran and someone is trying to convince you to go FHA or conventional and you qualify for your VA benefits, run away from that loan officer.
I cannot back that enough. When my father was in the military and my grandfather was in the military, and like a lot of us, we have military in our families, and people don't understand how that VA loan works and what an amazing benefit it is. And they're just not aware of it. And it's dumbfounding because it's a phenomenal loan program. I wish more people would take advantage of it so they could get into a home and have that 100% loan. It's like, you can get in for so little. It's amazing. So yes.
And there's no cap to the loan. Like if you've had enough time in service, you could get $1 million VA loan if you qualify for it. It's all in how much time you spent in the service. And then I have to throw out there, because again, Ben, VA, is my favorite.
Yep.
There is a misconception out there that veterans believe they can only use their VA benefits once.
Yes.
Not the case. You can use it to buy this house, and when you're ready to buy your next house, you sell this one, buy your next one VA. Or if you're relocating from one state to another, you may say, okay, my loan here, this VA, I don't want to sell this property. I want to rent it. So you're living in Florida, you have a VA loan, you rent your house, you come up here to Georgia where your new job is, and you can buy VA again if you have enough entitlement. But we really should talk about doing a whole segment on VA, because I can go on a whole tangent on that.
Yeah, we need to do that. We'll do a separate one for VA, because I think you and I both have a passion.
I lose myself in that.
I love it. Okay, so we talked about that a little bit, which is good, and I want people to understand. Now, from the other side of it, from the agent side of it, let me explain something when it comes to the VA, when the FHA and conventional. So this is where some agents do look at FHA as a concerning. I think a long time ago, it used to be much harder to get a home approved for, like they would do the FHA inspection, and the list would just come back and people dreaded it.
Correct.
That's not the case anymore. I want to be clear with this. And I've had this conversation with listing agents for my clients. And this is important for you to know that, some agents need to be re-educated or reminded, hey, this is not going to come in with all these things that need to be repaired. This is a good loan. This is where you have to be aware of who you're hiring to work on your behalf. Okay. Because, and I want to make that clear because, VA, I keep saying VA, FHA, used to it used to be like, oh, the outlet's cracked, around the cover. It's like, no, it's not like that anymore. They just want to make sure the biggest things like, hey, your mechanicals, your air conditioner, your roof and stuff is going to last at least 2 years without being any problem. That's really the big thing they're looking for, from that their agents are concerned about, that they're going to come back and say something's wrong. So I just want to put that out there since we were talking about it. So
yeah, it's FHA catches a bad rap. But the fact is, for a lot of clients, it's better terms and conditions, a much better loan for them. So exactly. To all sellers out there and listing agents, please do not, you actually have more wiggle room on FHA than you do with conventional, because conventional has a couple of just hard stops.
Right.
That DTI can't go 1 penny over 50%.
Exactly.
Versus FHA, I can push that DTI up to about 56.99 with a strong credit borrower. So it gives them more buying power. So please be open.
And let's hit on that very quickly. And then I don't want to go too much into it and overwhelm people, but your debt to income is important, and that does affect which type of loan you can get. So that also may be like, if you're going in like, hey, I want conventional, someone comes back with FHA, there might be an issue there. Or let's touch on this. One thing I love doing with JaNeen and loan officers I work with is, please, if you're thinking about buying a home, you also want to get this started, because here's the thing. I've had people say, I can't get a loan. Okay. And they've just said it. Well, they've gone online, done an online application. Okay. And this sends me over the edge. And the company that they went to comes back and says, sorry, you don't qualify. And that's all it says. It doesn't give them a reason why. It doesn't tell them anything. They can't call to a call, or they call a call center out in Oklahoma, and they're not talking with a loan officer local. And this is, JaNeen, this is my pet peeve. I want everyone I work with to have a local loan officer, so they can talk to someone. And with that being said is, sometimes, I've had people come in and I've given them to the loan officer, and the loan officer, when you do desktop underwriting, I think, or it'll say, hey, if you pay down this amount, pay down this amount, you get to where you need to be and we can get you a loan. Okay. That online company says, this is our box. You don't fit in the box and you're out. Okay. Whereas a local loan officer can say, hey, if you do this over the next couple of months, we got you. You have a loan. So I want to make that point too. JaNeen, you look like you want to say something.
Oh my gosh, because that is so, I know I'm a little older. So I'm a pencil and paper kind of girl, but I understand we're in the age of just modern technology and everyone wants to do everything online. But when I look at someone's credit report, it's kind of like a puzzle, right? And as I'm looking at it, it's how do I put this puzzle together in order to qualify the borrower for what they want? Yes. You could have put in online that you wanted to qualify for 300,000, but because you only qualified for 250 based on what you sent, they declined you. Not everyone's algorithm is set to be smart. So when someone does my application, when they go to my website and fill it out, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look. And if my debt to income ratio is high, the first thing I'm going to look at are the credits, right? What debts do you have? Sometimes someone could have a car payment that only has 3 payments left.
Right.
Which I can omit. Or maybe you've got an Amex credit card. And most of us know Amex, whatever your balance is, what your payment's going to show. So if you owe $3,000, now it's showing you got a payment of $3,000. Not many of us can just take an extra $3,000 in our debt ratio and still buy a nice house. Yeah. So there's a lot of common sense behind how your loan officer is analyzing your credit report and then looking at your assets. So I have a lady, she's closing at the end of this month. Real big family, like 7 children this couple has. It's amazing. I know, I didn't even know they did that in 2021. I got 2 and I struggle. But but she's selling a house and she's gonna make a lot of money off of her sale. We're wiping out all of her debt and we're paying it off at closing. So that way it's not like she has to sell and wait or whatever. We're just gonna sell in the morning, buy in the afternoon, and then we've already factored in to pay off all her debts. Well, without paying off all of her debts, her debt ratio was like 75%.
Right.
So if someone wasn't looking at that and looking at her situation, she'd think, oh my gosh, I can't buy another home. I can't sell my house. Oh, I throw it all up. That's the importance of a conversation.
Yes, thank you. And I can't stress that enough. You have to have those conversations. People don't want to. I get it. There are people out there, people don't want to embarrass themselves. Let me explain this. The majority of people out there I know have been through some sort of financial struggle at some point in their life. It doesn't matter. So what I always tell people, you know what? It's not embarrassing. It's not whatever, especially after 2008, when everyone lost their house, when everyone declared bankruptcy, and it's not what it used to be. And so, don't hesitate to talk to someone locally, because it can be the difference of you getting that house and getting that loan and making a huge financial benefit for your family and yourself. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So let's just FICO score requirements. We know we have to touch on this. I know you touched on it for a minute, because that's what a lot of people are consumed with, right? What are the 2 questions? They want to know their FICO score and they want to know the interest rate. That's where everything really starts. And so let's talk about FICO scores and where they need to be. And, I know there are overlays and stuff, but let's say where they typically need to be and what do you need for, to get a loan. Let's just start there. Because a lot of people think they need over 700. You touched on it. That's not really the case.
Well, before we talk about score, let's just talk about credit. We are going to look at basically your last 2 years carries the most weight. Now, it doesn't mean that just because you had a credit card late doesn't mean you can't buy, right? Because it's your overall financial picture. But those last two years are super heavy. So our minimum credit score for FHA or minimum credit score to get a loan is about 600, right? But just because you have that 600 score does not mean that you can necessarily run out and buy. It's what are your behaviors, have your behaviors been for the last 2 years that caused that 600 score? If you've got an apartment collection in there and you've got a 600 credit score, keep working, right? But if you've had some issues because you lost your job 4 years ago and credit was horrible 4 years ago, but the last 2 years have been really clean and you've shown your financial strength and your credit score is floating between that 6 and 620, we can work with that because we can show, like, I got to give this example, Ben, because it's like the perfect example when buying a house from a lender's perspective.
Okay.
It's like going into court, right? Your loan officer is your attorney. The prosecution is life, is everything that's happened to you for as long as you've been borrowing. And then the judge is your underwriter, right? So if you've got a strong attorney and life is saying, oh, well, she had an NSF don't forget, we had a 6-month gap where she lost her job and didn't get another one for 6 months. And life's going to throw everything at the judge. Well, your attorney over here is going to explain it and do that arguing for you. That's the same thing with credit. When I look at someone's credit profile, sometimes my advice is, I need you to pay your bills. As basic as that. Like, this person could have $50,000 in the bank, but they're just not responsible with paying their bills. I need you to get on a regimen, do those automatic payments, whatever you need to do to make sure things are paid on time. And then sometimes I get someone who just has very thin credit because they pay cash for everything. So if the highest credit card you've ever had is $500 and you want me to lend you $300,000, I'm gonna need a little bit more credit depth. So there is, like, Ben, I'm glad you mentioned this because a lot of people say, but my credit score is this, but my credit score is this. It's sometimes a little bit beyond that, which then goes back to why it's important to have a local person that can explain all this great stuff and tell you where you sit. I love when I get a call and it's like, you are ready to go shopping today. That borrower is like, I've been working on it and I did this and I did that. They didn't even know the rules. They were just being financially responsible. So that's what we want you guys all to be.
And I love the analogy with the courtroom and stuff, because that is so true. And I've had clients like that. And it is, what I've said to people before is, it depends upon how you're trending. A lot of lenders will work, if you, like you said, 4 years ago, if something happened and you can see a trend where you're going up and you're getting your life together and the financial side of things, it's a different story. If you can explain things and things make logical sense to a loan officer and an underwriter, then that changes where you stand. If you have something like you just said, and I honestly, it's funny, I knew someone who did that. The person made a ton of money and just went through a stage where he didn't want to pay his bills. He was just angry at the world. And I'm like, okay, that's your right, but you're not going to get a loan. There's just no way you can have all this money, and let's go to real quickly. And this is why it's so important, is like, I had a client who was buying $1 million home and their debt to income ratio literally was over 0.1% what was allowed for this jumbo loan. And because what they had done, it wasn't a bad thing. They had actually taken a loan from their life insurance policy to put the money down because they were going to put it back with the sale of their the house they're in now. Made logical sense, but the problem was that jacked up their debt to income. Yeah, you're right. And it was a very wise decision on their part from the outside, but they didn't realize what it was going to do. So again, this is why the conversation is so important to have with your loan officer, so everyone's on the same page. Because they had an astronomical FICO score. They were wonderful on paper, but once that was done, it changed things, and they had to go through it. But they could explain it away. It made logical sense when they went to the underwriter and said, this is what happened. This is where this loan came from. This, you know, and it'll be paid off when the home sold. Okay, great, no problem. So, okay, fantastic. Now, I want to ask the last question I want to ask you. What is the one thing you would tell someone's looking for a home? If you could get this into everyone's ear, what would it be from a loan officer standpoint?
Buying a home in 2021?
Yes.
Right now, Ben, I probably have 200 plus pre-approved buyers.
Okay.
My advice is when you get out there, stay strong and stay in the fight, okay? Do not let no discourage you, especially those people who've really never been told no in their life, right? You guys are the people that I'm talking off of a ledge. Like, I have $100,000 in the bank. I have an 800 credit score. I made 200,000 a year. How dare they not take my offer? Whether you're buying a $100,000 house or $1 million house, we are in a market where there is just not a lot of inventory.
Yes.
So it is all about strategy. It is about aligning yourself with a strong agent, aligning yourself with a strong loan officer that's going to be there to help walk you off the edge in case you lost an offer to an all cash deal that we didn't even see coming.
Yes.
You know, just don't give up. Don't give up. That would be my message to everyone, because I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that everyone should own a home. Everyone, it's even if you don't have the money, if your credit's not right now, you can get on the path to where you own your own little rabbit box on this planet we call Earth, right? So don't give up. Don't be discouraged. And if you are feeling that, you know, you're not connecting with your team, get a new team.
Yes.
Don't give up your dream. Oh, Ben, we could get a new team. Don't give up your dream.
I actually like that. That needs to be a new marketing thing right there, because some people have been frustrated. You know, and let me take that step further on a personal note. Like, I grew up, I was only child of a single mother, and my mother, back when people—
I love your mother, by the way. I love her.
Oh, thank you. That's right. I know she loves you guys too. But thank you. But, you know, every Sunday she sat down, we were in an apartment, and she went through all the home ads, right? There was no Zillow at this time. And 2 years, people, 2 years is what it took for her to find a house, because she knew how important it was to have a home. She knew how it built wealth. She knew how it actually saved on her taxes. That's another topic we're going to talk about on another call.
Yes.
Because no one understands how important that is for your taxes as well. So that's another show, but you know, 2 years. So please don't get frustrated after 2 months and think you're never going to find the house. I will say this to clients all the time. And JaNeen, you know, I say, look, there's a perfect house, but there's a perfect house for you. You know, we got to find the perfect house for you. And it may not be that house that you think because you got beat out for a cash offer.
Right.
But, you know, the perfect house for you, we will find. It is out there. And sometimes we just got to take a deep breath to find it and realize, and, you know, when you walk in and say, you're right, this is my home, let's get it done. There are not 800 other offers you're competing with. And that's when you know it's your home. And it's like, okay, let's move forward. And it will be easy, I promise you. But JaNeen, thank you so much for that, because it is like, we got to stick to it. Sometimes it is just, you know what, sticking to your guns and saying, hey, we're going to keep moving forward and being relentless in that process, in this market specifically. So
Absolutely.
JaNeen, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I love talking to you. You know that. So
I love talking to you too, Ben. Thank you so much for inviting me. I look forward to us doing it again.
yes,
And just encouraging vibes to everyone out there. Your house is out there. We just got to find it for you. So good luck. And yeah, good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I hope this is informative, and I'll talk to you soon.